The mid-season update for Warzone and Vanguard is right around the corner, or is likely right around the corner. Nothing's really been confirmed, but I'm assuming we'll know more in the next few days here. Probably likely Monday is my guess, but anyways, right now I want to take some time and look at the current meta of Warzone, because having jumped back in after like a week or two of playing minimally, if any at all, there's a healthy number of weapons that you can mess around with and still do well with, whether in Caldera or in Rebirth. So today, I want to break down a top 10 weapons and loadouts video here for you, so you can jump in and do as best as you possibly can. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What do you like in the current meta? Is there anything in particular that you'd add or subtract from this list? And what's your favorite weapon to rock right now? As well, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video, as well as hit that subscribe button to stay updated with all things Warzone, Vanguard, and anything Call of Duty related. We've got you covered here on the channel, and I'd love to have you in the community. And finally, as with the last few days, my friends over at Gamer Advantage of Code Espresso bumped up to 20% off your entire order. So if you'd like to learn more, check the link in the description below, but more on them in a little bit. That said, let's jump into it. Firstly, this list, as with all our other top 10s here, isn't any definitive 1 to 10 order in terms of its setting, since most of the weaponry in Warzone truly doesn't fit a definitive role like that. There's so many weapons that excel in some specific areas and others in different ones. So the be-all end-all weapons don't really apply at the moment. Instead, I'm going to cover some of the weapons that I've had the most fun with and what have been dominant in most applicable scenarios. So with that said, I want to start out with the Cooper Carbine. Now, the Cooper is a weapon that's jumped back into my favorite slots here at this, and it might not be the most dominant weapon in terms of overall peak performance, but it does the job and does it well. I've been playing Vanguard Royale quite a bit here. I've really been loving the health adjustment in this one, hoping that it comes to the full BR experience, maybe with the mid-season update. But the Cooper, apart from looking absolutely killer with a matte black finish that you can get on the Norse Knot blueprint with gold camo, like for real, give us a matte black universal camo and I'm all in on that. But aside from the fact you can make it look insane, it's a beam machine with the right build. For me, it's a combination of some things we've talked about here on the channel in the past, mixed with a few other elements as well. For me, the build on this is the MX silencer to stay off the radar and keep that recoil controlled without sacrificing any range, as you would with the Mercury silencer, the Cooper custom barrel for control and additional fire rate. I run the 3 to 6 times optic here on this one. I'm gonna be honest with you, this has actually been slowly one of my favorite optics. The 2.5 was my go-to initially with the integration, but I've really started to like the ability to zoom in on targets if they're a bit further out, mid-gunfight. Though, I do think that I might be either weird or in an echo chamber of players that don't really use it all that much, because in one of our recent games, maybe even the one in this video right now, depending on how the edit goes, it was a clutch situation for me where I was the only one on my team and everyone was spectating me, and Zach or Immortal goes, "Jordan, I think you're one of the only people I know that actually zooms in with this optic," and I was like, what? But anyways, I also run the Cooper 45 RS stock, the hand stop, the 9mm 60 round magazine. I personally tried the 30-45, which is an incredibly viable option, but I just didn't like the kick that it had at range, so I went back to the 60 for a little bit more control. Personal preference on that one. Lengthened, polymer grip, hard scope, and fully loaded to round out that build. It's phenomenal, and I promise it is a blast to play with. So jump in, try that out. Next up, another one that I've been having a blast with is the Automaton. Now, this one, with the right attachments, visually it looks like there's absolutely no kick. I end up running the 3 to 6 times on this, so you will notice a little bit of kick if you use the build that I use, but honestly, it's nothing that you can't control with a little bit of control on that right thumbstick. Just pull down slightly, and you're good. But the fire rate of the Automaton, the ammo capacity of it, the overall control that you can end up getting, it's honestly a really good weapon if you want something that deviates from, say, just a Bren or something like that in terms of a higher damage rifle of some kind. For this, I end up running the MX silencer, the Anastasia sniper barrel, the 3 to 6 times optic, the Anastasia padded stock, the M1941 hand stop, the Sakura 75 round magazine, lengthened as the ammo type, the polymer grip, tight grip, and fully loaded to round that out. Honestly, it's a lot of fun here to play around with this one. This was actually more so born out of just my boredom of using the same couple of weapons over and over again. And honestly, it stacks up. If you can end up getting yourself away from some of those crush weapons, perhaps, that have been meta for quite some time, it's a fun weapon to play around with. Outside of that, we're going to talk about the Welgun, because yes, this is a weapon we've talked about before, but it is something that I've changed my class up and actually quite like it, maybe even a little bit more at this point. Beforehand, we've really prioritized everything in terms of fire rate, and there's nothing wrong with that. That build still is available to use and is viable, but I've changed it a little bit so that I can get a little bit more damage range, a little bit more mobility out of it, and honestly, I really like it. For this, I run the recoil booster now, the shrouded barrel, the GW03 optic instead of the slate reflector. I like that additional ADS speed the iron sight actually can afford you, plus the iron sight itself really isn't bad, so you can run that with ease. The removed stock, again, for more movement speed, sprint to fire speed, and ADS speed, the hand stop, The Gorenko 40 round magazine is also another deviation here from what we've talked about previously. Normally we ran that 9mm mag, so we had 64 rounds. The only thing that I will say is that I have gone back to that 9mm. I've swapped back and forth every so often because 40 rounds sometimes isn't enough here to end up getting 2, maybe 3 kills with it, and especially if you end up cleaning up kills with your weapon ammo and not a throwing knife, it can get you killed sometimes. So for the ammo, really it comes down to what you prefer. Then I'll rock hollow point, I'll run the fabric grip for a little bit more ADS and sprint to fire speed, fleet, and then quick. Again, prioritizing a little bit more in terms of that mobility, ADS, and handling, as opposed to just necessarily rapid fire. So that's a build that I've been loving. Definitely try that one out. Then I want to talk about a weapon that was recently introduced here after Season 2, but not quite to the Season 2 Reloaded update that we still haven't had just yet. That being the Vargo 52. Now, the Vargo is interesting because it's a weapon that is kind of a cross between maybe the AK-47 and the XM4. Higher fire rate, decent damage, really easy to control, and it can absolutely melt. The only thing that has kind of hindered this weapon, I think, thus far is that it's been bugged in the sense of, one, if you want to use the ferrofluid blueprint, you don't get it in-game. You straight up just don't have a weapon, so you have to use the bare weapon blueprint. You have to unlock that fully. But also, the fact that some of the magazines have been bugged off and on. To this day, I don't know if they've entirely fixed the 60-round magazine. Having jumped in, it seemed like they may have fixed the entire empty reload animation, but if you try and reload with a couple of rounds still in the magazine, you have a delay like you used to have with the stopping power rounds, where you have to take an extra 2 to 3 seconds after the magazine's loaded for it to actually register. But if you can get past that kind of stuff, it's an absolutely awesome weapon, to which I'd recommend the GRU suppressor, the task force barrel, axial arms 3x optic, the Spetsnaz grip, and the 60-round magazine. Now, that might not seem too out of the ordinary because a lot of our Cold War weapons are very similar, but definitely give that a shot. I think you'll like it. And finally, before we take a quick little mid-video break, the Bren unfortunately still is a top 10, maybe even top 5 weapon. We're gonna breeze past this one because we've talked about it so many times, and honestly, it's kind of boring to talk about, kind of boring to use, but I mean, we can't talk about a top 10 weapon list without including a weapon that's in the top 10 still. For this, the MX Silencer, Queen's Royal Barrel, 3-6x optic, Hawkinson SP2B, the hand stop, the Sakura 40-round magazine for extra control, lengthened, the polymer grip, tight grip, and fully loaded. We've talked about this many times, so really don't want to go too far into it. That's still there. But before we jump into the latter half here of this list, I want to take a second to let you guys know about my friends over at Gamer Advantage. If you guys are familiar, maybe not, they're the best blue light glasses company on the market. They recently just launched a couple of new colors in the Horizon frames, which honestly are my favorite that they have on offer. They're incredibly lightweight. Sometimes I even forget I have mine on. Incredibly durable, and they protect your eyes against the effects of blue light if you're on your phone, gaming, or at your desk for prolonged periods of time a day like I am. I swear by these guys, best on the market. I've used their stuff daily for well over a year now, had absolutely no regrets. So if you guys are interested in picking up a pair for yourself or learning more, check the link in the description below. And if you do find yourself interested and want to pick something up, use code Espresso for 20% off now for a limited time only to get that discount on your entire order. Check it out, maybe save yourself a bit of money. But anyways, back to the top 10 list here. Next, I want to talk about the AK-47 from Black Ops Cold War. It is still a weapon that, like the Vargo 52, is incredible in terms of handling, fire rate, and just overall mobility. It's a solid deviation here that still stacks up against some of the best weapons if you don't want to use just Vanguard weapons or anything like that. For this, I'd normally run the GRU suppressor, Spetsnaz RPK barrel, axial arms 3x optic, Spetsnaz grip, and the 45-round magazine or the 60 really comes down to which you prefer, but that's something that is available here and honestly works very well still. Outside of that, one that has kind of made its way into the mix here, if you ask me, is the DP27. Now, this has to be kitted properly for it to be something that works out well, so for that, I'd end up recommending the MX Silencer, Kovaleskaia 604mm barrel, the 3-6x optic, again, that one's more preference-based, though, than anything, the S2M stock, the hand stop, the 7.62 105-round pan magazine, lengthened, polymer grip, hard scope, and fully loaded. It's very similar to other builds here that we've talked about for LMGs and things for control, but definitely jump in, try that one out. Now, I will say the MP40 is still up there in terms of what does well. So for that, of course, we've talked about this. We can kind of breeze past that as well. The MP40 build, though, that I'd recommend is one that prioritizes mobility, a little bit more handling with that, and also a little bit of fire rate. For this, the recoil booster, 317mm barrel, though I have seen people start to run the 189mm barrel for that added damage range and limb damage. That's still a great option as well. The Krosnik ISO 1M optic, the folding stock, the pistol grip, the 7.62 Gorenko 45-round magazine, hollow point as your ammunition, the polymer grip, unmarked, and quick. Now, one thing that I will say with this, and then transitioning into the Owen gun, which we'll talk about in a second, and also just really SMGs in general, I've come across so many people still using the incendiary rounds on their SMG builds. I'm gonna be honest with you, man, right now there's almost no benefit here for that. You sacrifice initial damage, you sacrifice bullet velocity, so unless you're right up on top of somebody, you're not really getting much benefit out of that. So definitely change your incendiary rounds to something like hollow point, maybe even lengthened. I'd prefer hollow point though. You get that additional limb damage, making you a little bit extra deadly, even if you're not hitting center mass. So try that out, get rid of that attachment. For the Owen gun, again, it's another one that we've talked about plenty of times, so we can breeze past that one. The recoil booster, the Hawkinson 142mm barrel, any optic you really want. I kind of like that M38 Slate 2.5 variable optic here with that one. Then I'll run the Ravenwood stock, the hand stop, the Gorenko 72 round magazine, hollow point, the polymer grip, acrobatic, and quick. The final weapon that I think will round out our top 10 here is one that we've talked about again before, still up there, the C-58. This, as with all our other Cold War weapons, may be a very comparable build, so breezing through it. Agency suppressor, task force barrel, axial arms 3x optic, class, let's say it together, the field agent foregrip, and the 55 round magazine. Very similar in build. You probably could guess that one here, but that said, that rounds out my top 10, but honestly, it's not the only weapons you can use. Like I said, the meta's pretty healthy right now, if you ask me, so other things like the PPSH still stand a chance. The OTS still stands a chance. The XM4, even though it got a little bit of a nerf, is still all right. The Type 100, if you're playing, say, Rebirth, it's a great option, but if you can get in very close quarters in Caldera, it's still got the fastest TTK of all SMGs in close quarters. The AS44, you kit that out for a pocket AS44, and dude, that fire rate makes it insane. So there's still a handful of other weapons you can play around with here that maybe we didn't explicitly put in our top 10, but coming back full circle, a lot of it is situational based. Some weapons will do better than others in certain situations. So if you didn't see your favorite weapon here, feel free to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below, but honestly, it still could fit in there. So that's where we're gonna wrap things up. I would love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this list here? What are your top 10 weapons here within Warzone? Feel free to drop your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, Vanguard, anything COD related. We got the Season 2 Reloaded update coming probably next week, we'll see. But stick it here on the channel. I'd love to have you in the community and keep you informed. But that said, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.